Hello guys, my name is Kunai, welcome once again to another episode of the best tier 4 tier tanks, today featuring the highest of all tiers currently in a game, the tier 10. Jesus fucking hell, that's a long title. Now before the video even starts, I just want to quickly point out that it's virtually impossible to rank all tanks correctly, as the tier 10 is by far the most well balanced tier out there.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I sure so am. On tier 4, you got tanks ranging from literal godsend fucking baguettes to Hitler's wonders that somehow managed to escape their toilet planning phase. On tier 10? Nope. Here the tanks are almost perfect in terms of balance. The heavies, for example, have an armor that's tough to pen, but not gold spam level tough. Tanks overall, so not just ADs, got difference of like 40 of its concentration and so on and so on. Then you got the Russians, of course. Either way, enough blabbling around, let's get to the actual video, which will kick off with a wild card, the Progetto M40 Mod 65. This is one of the newly added Mamma Mia tanks, and it's only about a month in the game. This means that we can't really say how exactly strong it is just yet, but with its versatility, I can already tell that it's gonna have a lot of balancing issues. And trust me, if there is one thing that the Wargaming sucks at doing, it's the balancing of their own game. So if there will be even the slightest problem with this tank's balance, it's gonna stay like that for a couple of years. Either way, as I already said, this tank is truly versatile, but it's so versatile mainly due to its unique auto-loading system, which just fits the Italian war strategy perfectly. It switches sides midway through the battle. How exactly? Well, it's an autoloading system that allows you to fire an entirety of your clip in a quick succession, just like a normal autoloader, but you can also fire just 1 or 2 shells depending on the situation, but it's still just a regular autoloader, isn't it? Well, the thing is that the Progetto doesn't have to wait 40 plus seconds for the entire clip to reload after firing just a single shell, because it doesn't really have a clip. It reloads like any other single shot tank would, but after it's done reloading its first shell, it can go for up to 3 more reloads. Then it can fire any number of these shells at any given time, so it has a clip that is not really a clip. Now, don't think of it like an autoloader with a decent DPM, that would be too broken. Instead of that, think of it like an autoloader that doesn't suck ass at dueling because it can actually reload decently fast. However, the more shots you fire, the longer it takes for your shells to reload, with the first shell taking 9.6 seconds to reload, second 11.5, third 13.4, and the last one 15.3 seconds. And even while firing just 1 shell at a time, your DPM is just 2250. That's like heavy tank level low. But you're not gonna be fighting heavies. You're gonna be fighting mediums, and against them you need to have good DPM to brawl efficiently. Or do you? You see, after thinking about the Progetto's capabilities, I found out one really frustrating thing that it can do, and that is that it can fire just 2 shells and then retreat to safety, while the enemy is still reloading. This allows it to win almost every single trade it gets into without sacrificing that much of its already terrific DPM. However, I give this strategy a badge of communism because it works only under perfect circumstances, which is basically never. Most of the time you'll see yourself using this gun like a normal autoloader, with the only exception being that you won't have to worry about wasting 40 plus seconds after shooting just a single shell. But we have talked enough about the gun, let's get to the armor, which is actually quite decent. Trollish but decent, and impossible to find apparently because I wasn't able to find a single webpage on the entire fucking internet that has a live armor model of this thing. Jesus Christ. Yeah, sure, I can see that Numerical has a paper armor, but just look at this fucking slide at the front of it. It looks like the face of a Russian slapping championship attendant after a day of bad bloody luck. I know it's well angled, but I don't care about that. I want to know just how many degrees this angle possesses. I can see that it has well over 70, but just how much more? 72, 80, 180, denying the laws of fucking Sokotoa while making the Pythagoras turn his grave so fucking quickly that he can power a small town with just a small bloody dynamo strapped to his head? Well, simply said, I know it can bounce a lot, but I want to know just how much it can bounce, and the replays are not helping either, so I get no idea. It's probably gonna be something like the Russian mediums though, but instead of broken thread, this thing has a broken hole. Lastly, the mobility is around the average of tier 10 mediums. It just has 65 km/h top speed, which is the only above the average thing about it. But now let's get to the number 4 tank on this list, which is gonna be none other than the biggest tank ever made, the Mouse. Remember as I talked about tanks that somehow got past the toilet planning phase just thanks to Hitler's permission? Well, this is one of them. Actually, the mouse, I'm wondering how it even got onto paper and wasn't shat out straight away just because of how ridiculous of an idea it was. But I gotta tell you one thing, and that's that the constipation the engineer had while designing it had to be pretty damn fucking huge, because this 200-ton heavy piece of shit climbed up all the ways to his brain from where it got onto paper, and then it was actually fucking built. I shit you not, pun intended, this thing was not only on blueprint, but 2 working prototypes of it were actually built, one of which even had a functioning turret. In game though, it's just a simple great brick with nothing special going for it. It's plain, simple, boring and broken. Really fucking broken while we are at it, because ever since it was buffed like a year ago, it is constantly considered as one of the best tier 10 heavy tanks. Now in case that you do not know what has happened to Mouse about a year ago, let me shorten it up for you. Before its buff, the Mouse was considered as the worst tier 10 heavy tank out there. It had the lowest EPM of all tier 10 heavies, bad accuracy, and was really slow, which made it an easy target for artilleries. The Mouse was also one of the biggest tanks in the game, which made it even easier target for artilleries which were shitting on it 24/7. Once again, unintended. And lastly, the only supposedly good thing about this tank, its armor had 2 huge ass cheeks that were getting spanked constantly. However, in 9.17.1, this tank was buffed in like every single thing imaginable, apart from speed, which was just as bad as it was before. The buff, however, made the Mouse super fucking OP. It literally went from being the worst heavy at the tier 10 to being the best overnight. In fact, the Mouse was so ridiculously OP that it caused an outrage within the community, which was followed by a global forum spam. In fact, it got so bad that Wargaming itself had to wake up and nerf the Mouse. I'm not even kidding. Wargaming actually nerfed something for once. Actually, not just once, but multiple nerfs were required for the Mouse to be at a somewhat acceptable level of OPness. Today, the Mouse has 2300 DPM, which is still high, but not as ridiculous as the previous 2700. It has alright accuracy, crap speed, but a decent armor that can actually block about 80% of the incoming shells if you know how to use it correctly. The only thing that could limit even those better players that would want to play this tank is the penetration of 246, which is equal to the E100, and it's the lowest tier 10 heavy tank penetration. But now to the third tank on this list, the Conqueror gun carriage. Well, if it can even be called a tank, because, you know, RTs are not really tanks, they are more like those cars that the homeless people carry around, but now with guns added onto them. But still, why am I placing an RT on this list if it's a tank list? Well, it's because I always try to put one onto every list. The problem is that they are usually so similar to one another that they not only feel the same to play, but they also got the same exact win rate, usually being around the bottom of the list. This means that the Gucci, as streamers from my country call it, has to be different from the RRTs. And oh boy it is. It's actually only artillery that beats the 50% win rate mark. Just kidding, the reason why it is on this list is that it has a literal fucking orbital doom cannon. However, that's something that the RRTs also have. But this beef roll can fire almost vertically, so you can play as almost anything, anywhere. You can be far away, close by, behind a mountain, rock, or in the middle of a battleground. It doesn't matter, cause Thick Daddy Churchill knows no bounds and is sending you his present. Sadly, it's still an arty, so there is nothing else worth pointing out apart from probably its 1200 alpha damage, which is the second highest artillery alpha damage out there, outdone only by the T-92.
Changes in the Soviet tech tree. Changes in vehicles' positions.
That was a visual representation of what was going through my head when I first played this tank. Do you know why? It's because this tank is a literal fucking monster. Or no, monster is a bad definition of what this tank actually is. Cancer. Cancer would be far more appropriate. Well, let's start with the fact that this thing has the worst tier 10 TD gun with the worst DPM, under average alpha, worst accuracy, and there are actually some TDs with worse penetration. I don't know how, but there actually are some, so yeah. But still, this thing has by far the worst tier 10 TD gun in the game. But that's also one of the reasons why I call it Cancer. You see, it doesn't need that gun to be OP, it has its mobility and armor. The mobility of a freaking medium with 20 horsepower ton ratio and 55 km per hour top speed. It's actually able to reach at top speed relatively quickly and maintain it, making it one of the fastest TDs at its tier. And as if that wasn't enough, look at it from the front. I could replace this tank with a pink fucking dildo and no one would realize that there is something different about it. That's how good its armor is. There's also this small green button at the top of it which upon touching will make it vibrate or something. Yep, I was correct. Still though, let me sum up what this tank is. Cancer. Just kidding. It is a tank with absolutely amazing armor and mobility, which, when utilized correctly, will make you a pain in the ass of any opponent you might meet. Sadly, or more like thankfully, this tank has a bad gun. However, that's only compared to the other TDs. It's still quite decent in comparison to the heavy tanks or mediums. So overall, this thing is good at almost everything. It's just a bit lackluster if you play it like a TD because of its gun, and at the same time it can be like a regular heavy because, yeah. But now to the number one thing on this list, which I think most of you have already predicted being at the top, the Object 907. Now when this tank was first added to this game a couple of years ago as a clan reward tank, correct me if I'm wrong, it was instantly considered incredibly OP because it had like everything. Good armor, good mobility and an amazing gun. There was literally nothing bad about this tank, it had no weak side. Everything was good, everything was strong, and because of Wargaming's policy of never nerfing premium tanks, it remains same till this day. Yeah, sure, there's this power creep of penetration and mobility happening nowadays, which makes the 907 less dominant than it was before, but still really strong. It's just slowly being replaced by other mediums such as the 430U or the 140. But back to what I was talking about. This thing is like that one friend of yours that can't choose a class to play, so he plays all of them and then quits the game like a month later saying that it's too grindy. Well, he won't say that it's too grindy, he'll most likely straight up declare the game is shit, but you get a point. Now imagine if that one friend of yours somehow magically got all his characters to top level. He won't be exactly excelling at any of them, but neither will he be terrible at any of them. And that's exactly what the 907 is like. And there's some pretty minuscule pluses about it. Well, it has 3000 DPM, which is a pretty damn big plus, but overall it has no minuses. That means that the player playing it doesn't have to worry about his enemies exploiting his weaknesses, and he can focus on just firing at the enemy while maximizing his own strengths. In other words, the sole reason for this tank being so goddamn strong is the fact that it has nothing bad about it, just good things. And honestly said, that's no fun to talk about. Sure, I could make a few jokes about how this tank is literally like Switzerland during the World War, but it's still not fun to talk about. Also, the video is getting a bit too long. Normally I would have a quick rundown of honorable mentions, but since it's too long, I'm just gonna put them into the comment section. For now, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, comment, but mainly please subscribe to my channel since I'm getting fucked over by the YouTube's algorithm right now and I need more people to prolong my asshole's lifespan because it's not gonna last much longer like this. Still though, hope you enjoyed this video and I hope that I'll see you next time. Bye.